Hey, internet friends. You ever feel like, I don't know, that sometimes it feels bad to be correct? Specifically, it feels bad to correctly predict everything that's gone down on the global stage over the last year. After being belittled by peers, called a conspiracy theorist, treated like the offspring of the village idiot and the town leper, yeah, sure, there's that brief yet fleeting moment where you internally acknowledge you're some ratchet Nostradamus for literally stating the obvious. But then all that's left is the suckiness of being right. Today, we're humbly and woefully keeping score on another obvious truth we've been saying for some time now. That the US government uses big tech as a tool to silence public dissent across social media. It's probably been happening for quite some time, probably since the conception of these social media outlets. But now they've finally admitted it, and guess what? No one does anything about it. Never. Nothing ever happens. At last Thursday's press briefing, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki discussed the White House's campaign to counter misinformation about the virus. Psaki explained that part of the Biden administration's new campaign involves asking social media companies to be more active in combating misinformation and to share the results of their efforts publicly. She said, quote, "We are in regular touch with these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff, but also members of our COVID-19 team. We've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're working with doctors and medical professionals to connect medical experts who are popular with our audiences with accurate information and boosted, trusted content. So we are helping get trusted content out there." End quote. Of course, this news comes only weeks after Facebook introduced the Narc on Your Neighbor feature, which prompts users to tattle on their Facebook friends with the pop-up, "Are you concerned that someone you know is becoming an extremist?" With a second alert reading, "You may have been exposed to harmful extremist content recently." Gasp. When approached for a quote about Biden's campaign this past Thursday, Facebook admitted that 18 million pieces of misinformation-related content had been removed. Meanwhile, medical professionals who speak out against the Fauci-ouchie status quo are repeatedly censored by social media, silenced even. Those who would normally qualify as trusted sources of medical information have had their social media accounts removed and their employers contacted for attempting to spread misinformation about the virus and the inoculations. What was called misinformation at the time anyway, but later proved to be true. All while millions and millions of folks across the world have been locked inside their homes and had their small businesses and finances crash because of government-imposed lockdowns. The United States government has decided that its citizens cannot gauge what information is true or untrue, vital information that affects their livelihood and health. Of course, it was already revealed with Project Mockingbird that mainstream media was totally infiltrated by the government, and you can see the effects of it play across your screen every day. All the mainstream media, they're all reading from the same script. Now the government aims to have your computer and phone screens reflect the same script, the same one you're hearing on Fox News, the same one you're hearing on CNN. So control of the flow of information, the information about this, quote, virus is what they've admitted to. Imagine what information they're controlling and not making a peep about. For example, during President Obama's tenure, Google and its affiliates met at the White House a total of 427 times. That's pretty cozy. I don't even think I saw my parents that many times during Obama's tenure. And I live 15 minutes away from them. What were they discussing, I wonder? I would tell you the same stats for the Trump administration, but they're not published anywhere. But tell me, when did we allow the government to infantilize adults? When did we allow them to become our parents, telling us what is true and untrue, what is safe to read and what is not, when to jump and how high? Over the last few years on this channel, I've extensively covered big tech censorship efforts, at first for purely altruistic reasons, and then for mostly selfish reasons here towards the end, as my voice and voices like mine continually are getting flagged and censored off the internet. My main bugaboo this entire time has been how big tech companies who claim to be private corporations routinely meet with the White House and take handouts from the government on the regular. Our own tax dollars are being used to silence us. My grandparents' money, my parents' money, my children's money. I am belaboring this point in each video because I want you to see how ridiculous the whole nature of our reality is. Money is energy. For most of us, it's a transaction of how we spend what little time we have here on this earth so we can have food, shelter, and comfort. According to my demographics, most of you watching this are American, and most of us Americans have to work for a living. Just as our parents did, just as our grandparents did, and so on. In fact, we work away the best years of our lives for this small taste of freedom past the age of 65, and then we die. And it's not the working part I'm villainizing here, it's the theft. During that time, over the thousands and thousands of paychecks, Uncle Sam takes a cut. A rather large cut, I might add. And a lot of people are okay with it because you're like, well, I want the roads to be in tip-top shape. I want our kids having the best of the best at the schools. But really, as the veil is thinning, it's becoming apparent that a large portion of those funds go to furnishing politicians' extracurriculars, lining the pockets of billionaires and funding their, quote, travels to outer space, bombing kids in the Middle East, gender studies in Pakistan, and censoring the hell out of anyone who has a problem with any of that. Your own dollars, your own energy is the fuel that this rotten thing uses to silence and censor you. To plant ideas in your head, to manufacture your consent. It is the boot stamping on the human face, forever. It is Babylon debt slavery with a never-ending circus act off to the side. So you're so distracted that you can't even notice or see the chains that bind you. And for the record, I hate George Orwell and I hate 1984. If I never hear it quoted one more time throughout my life, I'd be happy. But when I see stuff like this, where they're bragging about this effort to control the flow of information, they're not even hiding it. And these blurred lines between what are supposed to be private corporations and the government, I think of this quote. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. So what do you think, internet friends? I always look forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and supporting my channel on Patreon, where you have access to exclusive group chats, and you can watch all these videos early. Bye!